breaking news are happening now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reality Flash. My name is Mike Bloom, and I'm here to bring you the flashiest breaking news in the wide world of reality TV. We are talking wide because today I am stepping foot into a universe of which I don't have a lot of familiarity, and it's a big one, the Bravoverse, but I had to talk about this because the leak has been perhaps patched up between NeNe Leakes and Bravo, as for the first time in at least 5 years, she will be making her way back to the Bravoverse screens in the upcoming season of The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, alongside quite the star-studded cast. And so, again, I'm a bit of a neophyte in this world. This is like one of my few Achilles heels in reality TV pop culture spheres. And so I thought I want to bring in a guy who has become very recently acquainted with this sphere, has traveled from that sphere over to this one to educate about all of his recent findings and tell me and you all a bit of what we need to know about this cast. It is Matt Liguori.
Hello, Mike. Hello. Yeah, it is a big universe. It was quite the intimidating universe to jump into. I'm sure like you and many other people would love to just like be able to quickly watch a couple seasons and be fully downloaded on everything Bravo, especially in this world that we're living in right now with like, of course, The Traitors has really merged our reality TV world that we know with Survivor and Big Brother and everybody in the challenge with Bravo. And it's like, well, there's another half of this group of people that end up on The Traitors that we want to know everything about, and that's what made me decide to binge all these Bravo shows. Here we are. I have watched every single episode of a Housewife season ever, maybe except for a couple that are canceled by now. So I'm here, I'm excited, and I know there's a lot of buzz and excitement out there as well from people who have been around the Bravo scene for much longer than I have, but also people that are just as new as I am. So this news with NeNe is super exciting. This cast is super exciting. It's crazy stuff happening.
Can you explain, Matt, for the uninitiated, what is Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip? Because I have oftentimes described Traitors as sort of like the Super Smash Brothers Avengers of reality TV, right? Where you're taking people from all these different issues, all these different quote unquote superheroes, even though maybe some of them are supervillains, and you bring them into one environment for them to interact. It sort of seems like Ultimate Girls Trip is a version of that specifically for the Housewives franchise, no?
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I call it in the most basic terms, Real Housewives All-Stars, especially
Oh,
just to, bring it into our world a little bit here for the reality TV competition side of things. That's what it is. It is the, before this current cast, before this season, the iteration of Ultimate Girls Trip that existed from, I want to say it was 2021 to 2024 before it went on a bit of a pause before now it's back here. It was just taking a variety of usually like pretty worthwhile names from different franchises. There's a couple names that might have gotten in there that weren't like the top billing names, but still a lot of names of people that we haven't seen in a bit or whatever the case was, and they put them together on a trip, Ultimate Girls Trip. They go to a location, wherever that location may be, and they just are filmed for a week and change of getting up to their normal housewives antics, drama, fighting, activities, all that kind of stuff. And it's just seeing your favorite
I like
housewives
how the
interact.
activities are not drama or fighting. There's like other
Oh no,
leisurely
there's
things
extra
to do.
activities. There's game nights, and there you have to get the drama started somehow if it's just a group of people that don't otherwise interact. So there's activities. And so yeah, they usually go on a trip to one location and they're just filmed for whatever it is, a week or so. This one's going to be a little bit different, just to get right into it. This is going to be basically a trip across the country. This is a season that's going to be that's being advertised as a celebration of this 2026 is the 20th anniversary of the Housewives franchise. The Real Housewives of Orange County kicked off in 2006, and so here we are 20 years later. I wasn't watching live, I can tell you that. I was a little too young, but it's a celebration of 20 years, and so they have all across many different franchises of the show. And they're going to be hitting just about, it sounds like, every single city, especially or at least from the active Housewives franchises in this huge reboot of the road trip.
Are they like living together on a bus? What's the lodging situation
Well,
like?
that'll be interesting to figure out here because again, in the past seasons, they've just been living in whatever house that they are Airbnb-ing for the sake of the trip. This being a road trip, they're not going to be on a bus. These housewives are
That
not
is
living on a bus.
so beneath them. Like they would have to be paid trillions of dollars to sleep on a bus and use the same bathroom.
I mean, look, there's plenty of Bravo buses, and even in the promo picture, actually for this, you see Portia driving the wheel, so it looks like they are going to be in the car. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of shots that make it look like they are driving.
But couldn't it be like the beginning of The Simpsons, where like Maggie's driving the car, and it turns out that like it's actually just like a toy? Like, do they think they're really going to give the housewives full control of a moving vehicle?
They could, but it's safer not to. It's probably safer not to. But especially with a cast of icons as big as this one is.
All right. Well, before we get into the cast proper, it's odd to say that we're leading with this story because, correct me if I'm wrong here, the person that is sort of the headline of this, quite literally for us, is only a quote unquote guest of the show, which I don't know what that means. Is it like the equivalent of like the Friends on the Housewives show that NeNe will just sort of show up on a recurring basis but not be a part of the main cast?
Kind of. If I had to guess, this is probably going to film over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks at most. But NeNe Leakes, which we'll get into her, she's not going to be a main cast member. She's likely only going to be there for the time that they stop in Atlanta. It seems like is the case. That's where NeNe Leakes is originally from, the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So she's going to be there for that stop, which is probably going to amount to 1, maybe at most 2 episodes. I don't know if we have an episode count yet, but the big news about all of that is that NeNe Leakes has not been on Bravo for 6 years now. I believe her last season that she filmed of Real Housewives of Atlanta was the season that ended with the COVID reunion, the Zoom reunion of it all. And after that, things just got messy, lawsuits and just a lot of barriers from keeping her from returning to Bravo. But as the number one, I think it's fair to say the number one most iconic housewife of all time. Maybe there's people who would disagree, but she's in the conversation. She's probably most agreed upon number one. You're waiting. When is she going to come back to Bravo in some capacity or another, whether it's like starring back on Real Housewives of Atlanta or just showing up, showing her face somewhere like she is here? It's big news.
Yeah, talk to me a bit more about that. Obviously, we don't need to go through the whole 20-year history of the Housewives franchise, but what is it about NeNe and her legacy that you feel makes her the quote-unquote number one housewife?
The footage speaks for itself, and I mean, I couldn't even begin to quote all of the quotes that she has and the fights.
I feel like the most prevalent one that I've certainly seen from like a ubiquitous gift usage is, "Now why am I in this?"
Or "I said what I said," which just any way that I say any of her quotes is not going to deliver it with the same pack and power that NeNe Leakes does. But she just is a moment maker, authentic, lives her life. And that's what Housewives is, right? If anybody's not familiar with Housewives in general, it's 7, 8, however many women in a certain cast that are on camera for an entire season of their lives, filming what's going on through the ups and the downs. And NeNe is somebody who did the show for how long? 10 seasons, I think it was. But she's been on TV in 1,000 different ways besides just being on the Housewives. So she has just become a name that's much bigger than Bravo, but certainly means a lot to Bravo.
So were you surprised by this news? Because it seems like maybe it's a bit of coping from Bravo fans. And I don't know exactly the details as to how the falling out happened, but I would imagine for some people, was it a matter of when, not if she would return? Or did you truly feel like she's moved on to bigger and better things? She's much more likely to show up on a show like Traitors or House of Villains than actually return to the network proper.
Well, she was rumored for Traitors season 4. The rumor out there is that she was supposed to be out there, and then something happened last minute, and then Portia actually ended up getting that spot. Whether that rumor is true or not, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I ever would have put any kind of money on that NeNe will never be back on Bravo. Obviously, barriers such as lawsuits and things like that are going to really make it hard to see it possibly happening, but she by no means is the first housewife to go through this exact same timeline and then end up back in the Bravoverse. So it did feel like a matter of when, not if, for me. But the longer that it takes, every year that's passing by, again, especially for fans that had been waiting since she left the network in 2020, you're like, well, is it ever going to happen? Because what are we doing? What's going on? But it's finally happening.
Do you anticipate if things go, I would say copacetically, if there isn't any sort of like big dramatic incident? And listen, from what I've heard with Ultimate Girls Trip, those have certainly happened in the past. So not to say that just because you have an all-star season doesn't mean it is outside of the realm of possible controversies. But if everything goes at least somewhat swimmingly with NeNe's episode appearances here, I mean, do you think this is the re-entrance ramp back onto the Housewives highway here, or do you think this is more so her being like, yeah, listen, I'll stop in. It's the 20th anniversary. Now I've got bigger fish to fry.
It's hard to say that it could be, but I think one of the obvious things that happens with long tenured housewives, or really anybody on any given show, I come from a world, I watch, lots of seasons of The Challenge, and the same thing for anybody that's been on a certain show for a long time, even like regular just acting, whatever. You want more money, right? As you go along, and the paychecks need to be a little bit higher and more worth your while. So I don't know if they have the budget to afford what NeNe is probably going to want, if that was ever to be truly on the table again. But it's all about timing with a lot of these housewives. And if the timing works out and the paycheck is there, then I could absolutely see it. I would say, though, as a regular back on the series, it does feel to me just generally more unlikely than not. But the door's now opened.
All right. Well, let us open the door on the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. You and I were talking about this beforehand, Matt, that there's like a pseudo special title for this season, right? In honor of the anniversary. It's like the Roaring 20th. I don't know if that's permanent or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's permanent either. But again, that's just overall they're trying to celebrate 20 seasons of Housewives. They had a panel at BravoCon that featured a lot of housewives. I don't know, it was like 50 housewives up on one stage with Andy, and it was a really fun watch. It was just all of them answering questions about one another and drama and just like little shady moments and fun moments that you get when you put as many iconic faces on the stage together. So a lot of the people that are on this cast that we're about to talk about were there. But yeah, 20 years.
20 years. Well, let's start getting into this cast. And we talked about her plenty in the first part of this podcast, but here is is this like NeNe's official quote unquote cast photo?
Oh, no. This is these are some older cast photos for everybody that we're about to see here. But yeah, I mean, we already said a lot about NeNe Leakes here. It's a huge return. This is big news, as you see by the headline of this podcast here. It is something that I think a lot of people certainly have speculated for a long time. When is it going to happen? The rumors were swirling that we could be getting closer. All of the different, publications are picking up on maybe it's getting closer. And then finally, a day or two ago, Andy Cohen confirmed that NeNe will be back again in the capacity that we mentioned, not as a full-time cast member like the rest of the names we're about to get to, but she will be there, and that's good enough to get us started.
Any NeNe Leakes is better than no NeNe Leakes.
That's what they say. That's what I say.
All right, well, let's get into some of the more full-time members of this proverbial moving office here. And Matt, I'd love to hear you give us some brief history for each of these housewives and what gave them a spot on this bus or whatever they're using to go around the country here. Let's start with Vicky from The Real Housewives of Orange County.
Oh, Vicky. Vicky has been off of Housewives actually for quite a little bit as well. But she is as OG as it comes. OG of the OC, of course. Orange County, the franchise that started it all the way back in 2006. You hear that cast and Vicky describe about how when they got cameras rolling back then, they didn't know what this was going to be. Just like a lot of shows, they didn't know that this was going to turn into what it turned into. I think it was pitched as somewhat of a different show, almost like similar to this, but not exactly what it ended up being. And next thing you know, what did Vicky do? 14 total seasons. Ooh. By the last season that she did, she had been demoted to a friend of rather than main cast. And for people who are not Bravo people, friend of is basically you're recurring rather than a full-time cast member. So Vicky was demoted to a friend of, and by the next season, she was not on the show. And now from seasons 15 through 19, I think it is, she has not been on the show besides a couple of guest appearances, but that's not by her choice. She's ready to come back. Vicky is a big personality, a lot to, I imagine, work with from production. And so the fact that they eventually came to a point where they said, we can't make this work anymore isn't surprising, but it is very big news that she is back, because she's not only back for this season that they're about to film, this Ultimate All-Star season, but she's also coming back to season 20 of RHOC. She will be back as a full-time cast member there at BravoCon. Andy offered her spot back.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting. I think that the more you're talking, the more the Challenge All-Stars is maybe the appropriate equivalent, because this does seem more as an example of like, not the we want OGs mentality, but hey, here are some people who haven't been on the show in a while. Let's bring them in, as opposed to the mentality of like, these are the hot, fresh faces of the show, and now we're going to mix and match them together.
Yeah. 100%. And this cast, I think we'll talk about, what they all can bring to the show here. Vicky, even all these years later, will be one of the people that is bringing the most drama. Whatever city they go to, she is someone that can activated at a moment's notice. And it's funny because a lot of the housewives, they know what they're doing. They know their job, and their job is to create a good show. Vicky obviously knows how to do all of that, but a lot of it feels like it's natural, that she's just naturally getting activated because she's getting pissed off about something, and then she loses her mind, and then she's yelling at someone really loudly, screaming at the top of her lungs, throwing what you would probably call, an adult temper tantrum more than probably anybody else on this list. So, probably not the most universally beloved housewife, but there is no denying the impact and the historical legacy and everything that she has to deserve this spot coming back to Bravo and this show.
All right, well, let's move from the West Coast to the East Coast here, Matt, as we talk about. Now, she's an icon to the point where even I know who she is. This is Luann from the Real Housewives of New York City, but she's more colloquially known as the Countess, correct?
The Countess, yes. Yeah, you know, Mike.
All right, well, give us the numbers on the Countess here.
Yes, the Countess. So Real Housewives of New York City actually got a bit of a reboot a couple of years back. The original group, which included Luann, were all on the show for a long time. Luann, 13 seasons of the show, which I believe is every season of the original run.
Wow.
But they got to a point where things were not vibing very well. There were certain cast members that were really not speaking very well as the times were reflecting, what we want to be putting out there into the world on these shows and whatnot. And it was just, things were getting a little murky and messy, and they just kind of thought, let's reboot this and try something new. They want to keep, a show based in New York City. It's obviously a big city. And so Luann and the rest of her castmates were no longer a part of the show. But Luann and some of her castmates have stayed very much involved with Bravo to various extents. Luann's been on 2-3 different shows since her original run on Housewives of New York has ended. But she is just she is someone who actually does have a lot of fan love and fan support, much more, I think, than Vicky. She is, by the way, the caption here makes it look like it's covering her like a Survivor buff. Unintentional there. But she's the Countess. She's an icon. She's a legend. She's certainly a worthwhile name to come back from Housewives of New York City, and probably the one that just makes the most sense. So while she has not been active on the show in a while because her whole cast got booted off of it, this makes plenty of sense and is going to be a lot of fun to see her.
All right, let's move into another familiar face for me, because I've seen her pop up on a number of reality shows outside of the Real Housewives of New Jersey, from The Celebrity Apprentice, from House of Villains, from Prison. It's Teresa Giudice.
Yes, and Mike, and so you had actually mentioned a little bit about Teresa when we were talking before this, or last night, whatever, that the last time we saw Teresa was, I think, House of Villains. That was not Teresa. That was Teresa, but like her whole thing there, she was Mother Teresa. That was the story. That she was just like calm, cool, collected. Not Teresa. So I don't know. We are also in a time period right now, very interestingly, where New Jersey has been basically put on pause. It sounds like they're getting closer and closer to locking in a new cast, and no one has any idea what that's going to look like. You would be very surprised. We'd all be very surprised if that doesn't include Teresa, just as the staple of the show. I don't know that I've said this exactly, but like, all of these different housewives that they're putting on this cast, very much including Teresa, are basically like the number one top billing name of their franchise. Teresa very clearly is that person for this show. She is the Real Housewives of New Jersey, always has been. The entire first half of the series is her family and her family's drama, and even still all the way up until the 14th season, where the show eventually is just becoming literally too much drama. I know that sounds crazy, but too much that they had to figure something else out because it was just impossible to figure out how to proceed going forward. Always about her family and her family drama, because her sister-in-law, Melissa, is one of the other housewives that's been on for a very long time. So there's just always been drama there. Pretty good news for them that they seem to be back on good terms at this point, especially as of BravoCon. But a lot of people are wondering, is that so we can really get the news headlines going and show that we're ready to go back in and pick up filming Housewives of New Jersey? So Teresa is a legend. If you've never seen the table flip, I don't know what you're doing as a reality
Right. That's the infamous prostitution whore incident as well, if I recall correctly.
19 times. Yeah. That just the clips, just like NeNe Vicky, like there are millions that you could look at to see her. But that's the thing, what we were just talking about, House of Villains. She's not the same today, I don't think, as she was 10, 15 years ago when this started. Not to say that she's not still Teresa, but that was a little bit of a different Teresa. She's been still very activated in the recent seasons, again, leading to where things went for that franchise. But it'll be interesting to see. So many things in her life have changed over the course of the years. All of her kids that were babies when the show started are all now grown up. So it's just a different stage of her life. You mentioned jail time. So she is a bit of a different person today than she was, but she had to be included here for this cast to make sense. And she is.
Well, for someone who was locked up to someone who was locked down to come back for this season, let's go back to the West Coast here and talk about Kyle Richards. I feel like the Richards family, very prominent in the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, no?
Yeah, Kim and Kyle Richards, two sisters that are very much a part of the show. And they're nobody yell at me. Sister-in-law? No, something. Kathy Hilton, that is something like the half sister. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the exact details of their relation there. But
this isn't claim to fame.
Right. Well, Kathy Hilton, a part of the show, as well as usually in a friend of capacity. So she's been there a lot in recent seasons. But Kyle Richards is a mainstay of Beverly Hills. She is the longest tenured cast member there. I believe she's now tied with Tamra Judge from OC for the longest time on the show. I don't know if I think that record, like, they keep bouncing back and forth as another season airs, but I think it's 15 seasons that Kyle has been on. She's never missed one. She's been there from day one. I will say for Kyle, I think I've seen a lot of people react in a way that I kind of did. Even with all that said, 15 years, she's been a staple. She's held her spot down. Kind of comes in here as maybe the weak point of this cast. She has done a lot to maintain her spot. I can't take any of that, and I wouldn't take any of that away from her. But a lot of these other housewives are just icons for moments that they have created and drama that they've been involved in over the course of their time on Bravo. And Kyle has her moments, but she's not, to me at least, on that same level as a lot of the rest of them. And I think I've seen a lot of people also feeling that way. So look, nobody makes more sense to be here, historically speaking, than Kyle, but that is, I think, just kind of somewhat of a general sentiment going into it. It's like, Kyle, you really got to step up on this one. There's going to be a lot of big personalities, and if you're just sitting here narrating what's going on, it's not really going to be enough. But we'll see.
All right. Well, again, I've sort of doted in a couple of familiar faces amongst this list, and one of them is very prominent because we just saw her get kicked out of a certain castle in Scotland. It is from the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Portia Williams.
And Mike, this was probably your first experience with Portia on the Traders?
It was. I mean, I had seen a clip of the whole Underground Railroad thing even before doing the research. I will also say this is the only housewife who I've interviewed so far in my journalism career. I talked with Portia last week after her boot from Traders.
And so I want to say to that point of, that's all you've mostly seen of her. That's not Portia. That was Portia in a game that did not go her way, and she just got caught up in the messiness. Spoiler alert for traders, obviously here, but that's not Portia. I'm like disappointed in the way that we were disappointed when Dorinda was out so early last season. That it's like there's so much more that we could have had happen with Portia here. So much more to have been seen. But Portia is a staple of the show. She has not been around since literally day one, like some of these other Housewives leaders have been from the other shows, the other names that we've been talking about. I believe she started in season 5, but she's been around almost every season since. I think she took like 2 seasons off, but she's back currently, probably the biggest name currently on the show. Her and Phaedra, both of like the most OG cast members at this point. But she is everything that you've heard about her, right? Like that clip that you're talking about. She is, to me, going to bring a big element of comedy here. She's going to be someone that is great in confessionals, but also will get into the mix with any drama at any moment's notice. So I think that she's a great pick. Of course, if you were going for like the true number one of Atlanta, it would have been NeNe, but NeNe is going to be here, just not in this permanent spot. There's other people that you could have also, seen maybe getting the tap here. Kandi Burruss, but Kandi is also a very busy person going through some stuff right now as well. Maybe Cynthia Bailey gets the spot, but I think Portia makes a little bit more sense and is going to fit in with this group really, really well. She's going to be a lot more fun than the small time we got to spend with her on the Traders.
What is her relationship with her and NeNe? Like when they reunite in Atlanta, assumingly, is it going to be smoke or is it going to be fairly copacetic?
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately can't say like exactly. I don't know if anything's happened off camera in the past couple of years, but I have many more memories of them being good than I have of anything otherwise. A lot of good times between the two of them. So I don't know if they're actively still really good friends or if I'm completely missing or forgetting something where there was any kind of beef. But I'm more anticipating some jovial conversations and a lot of fun when they stop in Atlanta.
All right, let's move up the East Coast here and talk about from the Real Housewives of Potomac, Gizelle.
Yes, another top billing of Potomac of a franchise here. And there's other people that could have competed for this spot, but we go back to the conversation of who's been locked up or not been locked up and maybe recently just got out. So, Karen Huger's not going to be here to take the spot. She is no longer in jail. But she is not getting the spot so fast. And Gizelle just deserves the spot. Like she was one of the locks that I think everybody figured she was going to be here. She is it's such an interesting journey for her on her show so far, where she always has drama. She's always starting drama. Everyone could just be sitting around on the bus, at the dinner, at the event, and like if it's too quiet and too calm, Gizelle will just throw the bomb and she will immediately get something going it could be about anybody. Nobody's safe. Maybe Ashley Darby, like the two of them have been on the show together for a while now and seem to be in a good place. Maybe she's kind of safe, but nobody else is safe from Gizelle just getting into it, getting things started. So she's going to be, I think, a big drama starter and a lot of fun on this trip. She has been around for the entire length of this show, which I believe we're on 10 seasons now. And she's not going anywhere anytime soon unless it's her own choice. She's a staple of the show. She's been on some other Bravo shows trying to find, or no, that was Ashley that was on Love Hotel, I believe. But she's just she's a star, maybe a lesser name than some of these other legends just because she's newer, but still makes a lot of sense to be here.
Well, you talk about new faces. Let's finish off with one of the faces of the newest Real Housewives series, but I would also say like one of the hottest around. I have certainly been trying to figure out like my access point into Housewives, and I've heard Salt Lake City is kind of not only from a longevity perspective, but also from like a pure eventful perspective, one of the best entry points. And a large reason perhaps might be because of this person, Lisa Barlow.
Salt Lake City is the it girl right now. It's the hot franchise that everyone is watching. And they, Andy wasn't even trying to hide that when we were at BravoCon. Well, I wasn't there, but at BravoCon, just like everyone is watching Salt Lake City. Everyone is so invested in what the women of Salt Lake City are up to. The way that their group works is just fascinating, where they are now 6 seasons in, and the drama between the group of mostly the same people that were there on day one. Almost all of the cast members have made it to the end, or to the current place of the show. Almost all. But you would never be able to tell that this wasn't the first day of filming or the first season of filming, because there's always new drama. Granted, some cast members fall behind in keeping up with that drama, but Lisa Barlow is not one of those that falls behind. She is, I think that there can be some debate, because so many of the housewives of Salt Lake City have gone on to be on every season, of like, who is that, invisible top billing. But I mean, Lisa getting this spot kind of tells you who Bravo thinks that it is. Of like anybody on earth who's going to be the most upset to not get a spot, Lisa's castmate Heather Gay, I'm sure, is the most livid that she is not here representing Salt Lake City, because there's other candidates. Like I said, it's not just a slam dunk that it's Lisa, but I think for a lot of people it is. Lisa is a huge source of drama, pretty similar to Giselle in the way that, like, well, not in the same way that Giselle will go out of her way to start fights. Everybody comes to Lisa with their drama about her. It's always something that commenting about Lisa's this, her money, her family, her that. And Lisa's also not shy in making comments about other people's situations as well. So there's always something going on with Lisa. I think she's, of the 6 seasons, I saw this on Twitter a day or two ago, that she's got like the most times in the first chair next to Andy at reunions, which,
like the right hand of the king.
Yeah, you want to be in that spot. You want to be so relevant to the season and the conversation that Andy has to be right next to you. And this season, the reunion is happening right now, basically. She's very often in that spot. She's very often at the center of all the drama over there. So I think, at least I know, I was really curious who they were going to pick from Salt Lake City. And so I'm not surprised that it's Lisa, but I'm very glad that it is. She's the only one here that hasn't done a previous season of Ultimate Girls Trip. Everybody else had in the previous iteration of it, including Heather Gay, who I was just mentioning. Lisa has not. So this will be her first foray into the All-Stars mix, as you would say. So this is going to be fun. She's going to really be one to watch, as coming from this franchise that everyone is watching right now.
All right. Well, Matt, you have made me incredibly intrigued as to see what this will provide. Like, this really does seem like a Housewives cultural stew of all these different types of ingredients and flavors. I mean, I guess that's the entire conceit of the show in general, but I don't know. Do you feel like this cast stands out from the other ones in terms of who they picked as compared to the years that have come before it?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's a little bit giving like Survivor Winners at War.
Wow.
Of just like we are getting like what you've all been asking for all these years. And maybe not everyone's asking for this, but I think a good amount of people are asking for what they're doing here to bring back the Ultimate Girls Trip, which had been on pause. They had filmed a 5th season. It never aired for reasons. And so that's never going to get aired. But they're bringing it back here in a way that, like, obviously this is with a bang. Like, this cast is insane. And if they continue doing more seasons, they'll be able to fill out many seasons of like top tier names. But this is like the top tier names. I do want to point out that there is no representation here of Real Housewives of Miami, which is a very active franchise. It's the only franchise that is currently airing to not have someone. And there's candidates from there that could have been fun here. And I imagine that they'll stop in Miami and probably visit with all of the Miami housewives. So I'm not exactly sure where the decision came from.
That is a good point. Like, just because this is announced as sort of like the starting lineup, it does not preclude other cameos from happening, right? Depending on when they stop.
There will be, I think Andy said, upwards of like 60 housewives.
60?
This is the main cast. So we're not doing the full cast preview. I don't even know if we're going to get the list along the way, but housewives from every one of these women's franchises, and I'm guessing Miami too, will be part of all of these episodes as this big 20th anniversary celebration. Yeah.
Oh my God, this, like, I know I used the Avengers analogy before, but like, this is Endgame. Maybe not Endgame for the franchise, but like, I feel like the portals are opening up basically. Instead of, going to them, just bring the housewives to the bus proper. And that is 60 people.
And I would say, honestly, for you or for anybody out there from RHAP's orbit that, doesn't know Bravo very well and you want to jump in, but maybe you don't feel like you can watch as many seasons of the Housewives as I just did, or, that it feels impossible. This could be a really good entry point to just get to know a lot of these women that are going to be highly requested for your future Trader seasons of the world, or just if you want to be more keeping an eye on Bravo, plus the other 60 people that are going to be around along the way. So it could be a good way to get introduced and then pick your spots that you want to jump in otherwise. But it's definitely looking like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I am super excited.
Well, thank you, Matt, so much for coming on. I'm glad you picked your spot in coming on to talk with me, giving me a much needed education as to not only why it matters so much to have NeNe back on our screens in the Bravo universe, but also to find out a bit more about, as you mentioned, perhaps the most all-star of the all-star cast. And of course, you are spending all of your days and times talking about all the great stuff in reality TV. What would you like to plug for the listeners out there?
Yeah, look, I imagine when this comes out, I'll be talking about it some way, somehow. So very likely, maybe that'll be over on the Free Agents podcast, where myself and Brian Scally are talking all things Bravo. Scally has started his journey into the Bravo verse. He's making his way through it. And I know he started with Salt Lake City. So if you decide to do the same, then, some good stories to compare there. But yeah, Free Agents podcast, we're currently covering the Traders with 2 episodes a week. I'm talking to Kelly Wentworth this coming week. So that'll be a lot of fun. And rewatching The Challenge from the beginning of its run. And also I'm on the Diary Room podcast talking to Amon Adwin every week, trying to find the best player in Big Brother history through a big bracket game. It would be fun to do that with the Housewives as well, but that's another
start with
project.
the 60 that are going to be on this season, apparently.
Yeah, we could work it on that, but that's where you can find me, and I can't wait for the season. I apologize, let me say this also, if I got any information wrong. Again, new Bravo boy here, but have spent a lot of time over the past couple of years, so felt okay enough to be the guy to jump in here and talk to you about it.
Well, if you all have any information for me about tips out there in the reality TV world that you want me to talk about here on the Reality Flash, be sure to let me know either on social media at a Mike Bloom type, or email just tips at therealityflash.com. These housewives know a thing or two about tips in their day. So I want to have some in my eyes. Make sure you reach out, and always make sure you subscribe, therealityflash.com, if you haven't yet. If this podcast is, again, any indication, I might be able to pop on with really any piece of reality TV news, even if I'm not entirely knowledgeable about the subject matter. I know there is someone out there who does have the knowledge and can present it in such a fantastic way as Matt did today. So any ratings, reviews would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for listening. Matt, again, thank you so much for your insight. It is so greatly appreciated. We want to hear from you all as well, especially you Housewives fan. How do you feel about this cast of the Roaring 20th? What are your thoughts about NeNe's return? Could this be a possible segue into a larger return back to Housewives proper? No one will be incredibly sure, but it does seem like after 20 years, much like this mysterious bus, the Housewives will keep on rolling to many years and beyond. I'll be back in your eyes and ears soon with more reality TV news as it breaks. Until next time, everybody, you've just been flashed.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.